It's really fascinating how our brains are wired to use these uh, mental shortcuts, heuristics, to make split-second decisions. And yet these same shortcuts often lead us into predictable traps, like cognitive
Mm,
biases. It's like our brain's way of cutting corners.
absolutely. It's interesting how our minds work that way. So, what do you think about the idea that these biases are just a necessary part of our decision making process?
Well, exactly. These biases, such as anchoring bias, where we cling too strongly to the first piece of information we get, and confirmation bias, where we only seek out what supports our initial views, are actually byproducts of
Yeah,
quick thinking. They help us process loads of info rapidly, but at the cost of accuracy.
right. So, it's like our brain is constantly trying to simplify the overwhelming amount of data it receives. But isn't that a bit risky sometimes, especially when making big decisions?
Exactly. And that's where it gets um, tricky. Our brains are wired to use, heuristics to cut down on processing time. It's like using a mental template for every situation. But as efficient as that is, it often leads us to ignore or misinterpret important details.
Mm, I mean, think about the availability heuristic. You remember a recent dramatic event, and suddenly it feels like it's the norm. That can really skew our perception of likelihood, right?
Absolutely. And it's not just that. Take hindsight bias, for example, where after something happens, we feel like we knew it all along. It
Yeah,
creates this overconfidence in our ability to predict events, which can be misleading.
but don't you think sometimes these shortcuts, despite their flaws, are actually adaptive in situations where speed is crucial? I mean, our survival might depend on it.
You're spot on there. In high stress or urgent situations, these mental shortcuts are vital. They let us react quickly. However, in more reflective scenarios, like making uh, long term financial decisions or evaluating complex issues, these biases can lead us
Mm,
astray.
yeah, that's a good point. So, what strategies do we have to, counteract these ingrained biases?
Great question. One solid approach is to pause and reflect, basically, slow down that initial automatic
Yeah.
reaction, and then deliberately seek out diverse perspectives so you can challenge your assumptions. It's like intentionally gathering multiple data points rather than sticking to the first impression.
I like that idea. It sounds simple, but requires a lot of discipline, doesn't it? Not to mention that our emotions and social influences can still sneak in.
True, it's not foolproof. Yet, by making a habit of critically examining the basis for our decisions and leaning on objective data, we can mitigate a lot of these
Mm,
pitfalls. In essence, it's all about building a culture of self awareness and continuous reflection.
that perspective really resonates. It seems that understanding these biases is the first step towards making more balanced decisions in both our personal and professional lives.
Exactly. It's about using our brain's shortcuts wisely without letting them run the entire show. A little self awareness can go a long way in overcoming the defaults of cognitive bias. And that's the
Right?
crux of why understanding our thinking patterns is so crucial.